The cafeteria smelled of coffee and reheated pizza as the school board meeting filled up. Parents in worn jackets squeezed into folding chairs, teachers shuffled papers, and a handful of students hung by the doorway, curious about the drama they'd heard was coming. At the front sat the guest of honor, Alex Mercer, the tech mogul whose company had turned grocery delivery into a billion-dollar empire. He had arrived in a sleek suit, flanked by assistants carrying glossy presentation boards. For most of the people in that room, Alex represented money, opportunity, and the promise of something bigger than their small town. For Alex, the evening was supposed to be nothing more than a formality. Show off his generosity, attach his name to a new science wing, then leave before dessert. The trouble started with something simple. Food service was late. 10 minutes passed, then 15. When trays finally arrived, it was Sierra Brooks, the cafeteria worker who had clocked out from her second job and rushed here, who carried them in. Sweat dampened her collar, and her young son trailed behind, clutching an inhaler. Alex glanced at his gold watch, then at her. His voice cut through the chatter. "Where I come from, being late is failure." The room went still. Sierra set down the trays, looked him square in the eyes, and said quietly but firmly, "And where I come from, being late means I had to pick up medicine so my kid could breathe tonight. Some things matter more than your clock." A murmur rippled through the audience. Parents shifted, teachers exchanged looks, and even a few students smirked at the unexpected pushback. Alex gave a tight laugh, as if to brush it off, but something in Sierra's tone unsettled him. He thought he was here to control the narrative, to play the part of savior. But what happened next would turn everything upside down. The silence in the room stretched, broken only by the hum of the overhead lights. Alex forced a smile, the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. He tapped his presentation board with a polished finger. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, raising his voice so it carried over the crowd, "I came here tonight with a gift your children desperately need. State-of-the-art computers, robotics kits, the kind of tools that prepare students for the real world. But let me be clear, discipline and respect are the price of opportunity. That's how success works." A few board members nodded quickly, eager to stay on his good side, but others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Sierra, still standing near the food table, crossed her arms. Her son tugged at her sleeve, whispering something only she could hear. She bent down, kissed the top of his head, and whispered back before facing Alex again. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Respect goes both ways, Mr. Mercer. These kids don't need another name carved into a building. They need someone who sees them, not just their test scores." It was a simple truth, but in a room where most people usually stayed quiet, it sounded like thunder. Parents leaned forward. A teacher in the back actually clapped once before catching herself. Alex's jaw tightened. "Excuse me? Do you even understand what's on the table here?" Sierra held his gaze. "I understand perfectly. I see kids every day who skip meals because they can't afford lunch. I see teachers buying supplies out of their own paychecks. Maybe you think a shiny lab will fix everything. But until you learn to respect the people keeping this place running, all you're building is walls with your name on them." The crowd murmured louder now, the tension buzzing like live wires. Alex opened his mouth to fire back. He was not used to being challenged, especially not by someone in a cafeteria uniform. And then, right before the entire room, Sierra's son let out a sudden cough that echoed through the hall. His small body shook as he clutched the inhaler in his hands, and every eye turned toward them. Sierra dropped to her knees, steadying her son's trembling hands as he raised the inhaler to his lips. The sound of his ragged breathing filled the room, sharper than any speech Alex had just given. A teacher rushed forward with a glass of water. Another grabbed tissues. The boy's breathing steadied after a moment, but the room did not. Dozens of eyes stayed locked on Sierra, on the quiet courage it took for her to handle a crisis in front of everyone. She kissed her son's forehead, whispering, "You're okay, baby. Just breathe with me." Alex cleared his throat, trying to pull the spotlight back. This is exactly why structure matters. If this community had more order, more resources, order? One of the teachers cut in, his voice shaking with anger. "That child doesn't need order. He needs affordable health care and a mother who doesn't have to work 2 jobs to pay for an inhaler." The crowd erupted. Parents who had been silent began to speak at once. "My kid hasn't had a new science book in 5 years. We've been begging for better lunch funding. You think plastering your name on a wall is going to solve this?" Alex tried to laugh it off, but it came out brittle. "I'm here offering millions, and you're treating me like the enemy." Sierra finally stood, holding her son close. "We don't need a savior with a checkbook. We need a partner who respects the people already sacrificing for these kids." Her words landed heavy. Some clapped, others just nodded. But the air had shifted. It was no longer Alex's show. The room was turning. And then, in the middle of that storm of voices, the school principal rose from her seat at the front. She carried something in her hands, an old plastic box, worn at the edges. She placed it gently on the table as if it held more weight than anyone realized. The principal set the box on the table. The room hushed, curiosity cutting through the anger. She spoke calmly, her voice carrying the kind of authority that made even restless students fall quiet. "Before we continue this debate, there's something all of you should see," she said. "This came from the school's storage room. I found it while cleaning out the old computer lab." Alex frowned, impatient. "Principal Carter, with all due respect, what does this have to do with my proposal?" But she ignored him for the moment. She lifted the lid and pulled out a small object, a plastic gear, bright cobalt blue, with the number 42 scratched onto its side. Next to it was a faded printout of computer code. The older teachers leaned forward, recognition dawning on their faces. Alex stiffened, though he tried to hide it. He knew that gear. He hadn't seen one in years, not since the early days when his company was nothing more than late nights, broken servers, and a desperate scramble to survive. Whispers spread through the room. "What is that? Why does he look nervous?" Sierra glanced at the object, her brow furrowing. Something about it stirred a memory she'd buried years ago. A memory of typing at an old library computer, balancing a baby on her lap, trying to fix a line of code no one else could figure out. Alex's voice came sharper now, trying to cut the tension. "This is irrelevant. Some piece of junk from years ago. We're here to talk about the future, not..." The principal's eyes locked on him. "Sometimes the past explains everything." The crowd shifted, waiting. Alex gripped the edge of the table, suddenly less sure of himself. He could feel the control slipping through his hands. Principal Carter held the gear up for everyone to see. "This," she said, "was part of a project that saved more than one company a decade ago. Back then, our school's old computer lab was open late for alumni who needed a place to work. Someone using that lab made contributions to a piece of code that, as far as I can tell, became the backbone of Mr. Mercer's delivery empire." A ripple ran through the room. Parents glanced at one another, students whispered, and teachers leaned forward, curious. Alex's eyes darted to the gear. His polished calm slipped for the first time that night. He remembered those nights vividly, servers crashing, investors ready to walk away, and then, suddenly, a mysterious account online had patched the problem. The account was anonymous, known only by a screen name, GearFox. He swallowed hard. That gear on the table was more than a token. It was proof. The principal placed the printout beside it. Lines of code circled in red ink, a timestamp from the same week his company had nearly collapsed. "Whoever GearFox was," she continued, "they didn't just help, they saved everything." The room buzzed louder now. Someone muttered, "Is she saying what I think she's saying?" Alex straightened, forcing a chuckle. "Old stories, old code. It doesn't matter who did what back then. I'm the one who built this company." But his voice betrayed him, thinner than before. And then Sierra spoke, her tone low but steady. "Funny thing about old stories. They have a way of catching up to you." She hadn't meant to say it out loud. The memory had come rushing back the moment she saw that blue gear. Nights rocking her baby to sleep while running test code on a borrowed laptop. An email she never answered. An opportunity she never claimed. The principal turned toward her, eyes narrowing. "Sierra, you know something, don't you?" Sierra froze, her heart pounding. She had kept that secret for years. She never expected it to surface here, in front of her son, in front of the man who had dismissed her minutes ago. All eyes turned toward Sierra. She felt her throat tighten, her son's small hand wrapped around hers like an anchor. For years, she had pushed this part of her life into the background, telling herself it didn't matter, that she was just a cafeteria worker now, not someone who once touched the gears of a rising empire. Principal Carter leaned closer. "Sierra, do you recognize this?" Her lips parted, then closed again. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. The room had gone so still that even the hum of the projector sounded loud. Finally, she spoke. "Yes, I do. That gear, it was mine." A murmur rolled through the audience. Teachers exchanged startled looks. Parents whispered. Even the students, who usually half listened at meetings like these, were on the edge of their seats. Alex sat back in his chair, his jaw tightening. "That's impossible," he said quickly. "Gearfox was some coder I worked with online. Someone with real skill. Not—" His eyes flicked to her uniform, the hair pulled back hastily after a long shift. "Not you." Sierra didn't flinch. "I never wanted the spotlight. Back then, I just wanted to help. My baby was sick. I was scraping by. And I spent nights in this very building's computer lab trying to solve a problem no one else could. That account, Gearfox, that was me." The principal nodded slowly. "I remember. You came in late, sometimes with your infant. I let you use the lab after hours. I didn't realize until now just how important that was." Gasps spread across the room. A teacher whispered, "She's the one who fixed the loop? The code everyone thought Alex's team built?" Sierra's cheeks burned. She hadn't planned to say it out loud, but the truth was loose now, alive in the air. She turned back to Alex. "And you knew, didn't you? You knew someone out there saved you when your system was falling apart. You just never cared to find out who." Alex shifted uncomfortably, his voice low and defensive. "That was years ago. It doesn't matter anymore." But Sierra could see it in his face. He knew. He had always known. The words hung in the air like a spark waiting to catch. Sierra's chest rose and fell as she faced the man who once seemed untouchable, the cafeteria worker, the single mom, the woman in a faded uniform who had just rewritten the story of the night. Alex's laugh came out thin, like glass cracking under pressure. "You expect anyone here to believe that? That you, standing there with a hairnet and a tray of pizza, were the one who kept my company alive? It's absurd." But before Sierra could answer, Principal Carter stepped in. She turned the old printout toward the projector and flipped the switch. The screen filled with lines of code, dates, timestamps. At the bottom of each, the username Gearfox. She tapped the screen with a steady finger, and every single one of these entries was made on a Jefferson High computer, after hours, on nights when Sierra signed the logbook to use the lab. "I should know. My signature is right here, authorizing it." The room buzzed. Parents leaned forward, whispering. A group of students pulled out their phones, snapping pictures of the projected screen as though capturing a piece of living history. Alex's color drained. His carefully built confidence, the polished charm he wore like armor, was slipping fast. Sierra's voice was steady now. "You built an empire, but the foundation, the piece that kept it from collapsing, that was me. I never asked for credit. I never asked for money. I only asked for a chance to breathe, to feed my child, and to do something that mattered." Her son tugged gently at her sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, "that was really you." She knelt beside him, tears brimming, but refusing to fall. "Yes, baby, that was me." A hush fell over the room. For the first time all night, it wasn't Alex who held the power. The room stayed silent long enough for the hum of the projector to feel deafening. Every eye was fixed on the screen, on those timestamps that tied Sierra's name to the very code Alex had once claimed as his own. For the first time all night, Alex didn't look like the confident mogul in a tailored suit. He looked smaller, cornered, his jaw tight as though every word burned on his tongue. "This doesn't change anything," he tried, but his voice faltered. "Companies are built by teams, by leaders, not by a few lines of code scribbled years ago." "Not scribbled," Sierra replied softly, but her words carried through the room. "Patched, fixed, saved. And you knew it. You just didn't think it mattered who did the work. Because to you, people like me don't matter." A gasp swept across the rows of folding chairs. Parents who once stayed quiet now nodded. Teachers murmured their agreement. Even the students could feel it. The balance had shifted. Principal Carter folded her arms. "Mr. Mercer, this community deserves honesty. If you want to stand here and call yourself a benefactor, then you owe these people the truth about how your fortune survived its darkest night." Alex glanced toward his assistants, as if they might swoop in with some polished defense, but they stayed rooted to their seats, eyes down. The story was out, and there was no spin strong enough to cover it. Sierra didn't move closer, didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. "I never asked for your empire. I never asked for recognition. All I wanted was respect. But you couldn't give even that." Alex's hands trembled as he reached for the papers, the blue gear, anything to anchor him. but the evidence sat there like a mirror he couldn't look away from. For once, the room didn't belong to him. It belonged to the cafeteria worker he'd dismissed minutes earlier. The school board president finally cleared his throat, breaking the long silence. "We've heard enough," he said firmly. "This community doesn't need gifts with strings attached. What we need is fairness for our staff, our students, and the people who've been overlooked for too long." Applause broke out, hesitant at first, then louder until it filled the room. Parents stood, teachers clapped. Even the students joined in, stomping their feet against the floor. Alex sat frozen, his carefully rehearsed speech useless now. For once, no one rushed to flatter him or beg for his approval. Instead, all eyes turned to Sierra, the woman who had once sat in the back, nearly invisible. Principal Carter placed a hand on Sierra's shoulder. "You've given more to this school and this town than most people will ever know. Tonight, we're going to change that." A motion was called, and the board voted quickly. The new science lab would be funded, but not named after Alex Mercer. Instead, it would honor the cafeteria staff and teachers who kept the school running, and in a unanimous vote, wages for support staff would finally be raised, benefits improved. The cheers that followed shook the walls. Sierra's son beamed, tugging on her sleeve. "Mom, they're clapping for you." She smiled through tears, pulling him close. "No, baby, they're clapping for us, for everyone who's been working in the shadows." Alex tried to rise to say something, but the noise of the crowd drowned him out. For the first time in years, he wasn't the center of attention. And as Sierra stood there, holding her son, surrounded by neighbors who finally saw her worth, she realized something. Sometimes victory isn't about shouting the loudest. Sometimes it's about finally being heard. When the applause finally faded, the room felt different. Not because the school suddenly had more money or because a powerful man had been humbled, but because something far more important had happened. People had chosen respect over status, truth over show. Sierra stood there with her son leaning against her side, the same boy she had once rocked to sleep in the corner of a computer lab while she typed out fixes that no one ever knew were hers. Tonight, she wasn't invisible. She was proof that quiet work, often ignored, could hold up something bigger than anyone realized. Alex remained at the edge of the stage, his voice lost in the noise, his power slipping through his fingers. For the first time, maybe, he saw what success really looked like, not in boardrooms or headlines, but in a school cafeteria filled with people who had each other's backs. As families gathered their coats and children, conversations buzzed with something new. Hope. Hope that the system could bend, even just a little, toward fairness. Hope that the smallest voices could still carry when spoken with courage. Sierra bent down to her son, brushing his hair from his forehead. "You see, sweetheart, respect is worth more than money. It lasts longer." He nodded sleepily, clutching her hand as they walked toward the door. Around them, teachers stopped to thank her. Parents offered hugs. Students whispered her name with awe. The gear and the code printout sat quietly on the table, symbols of how much one overlooked person could matter. And as Sierra stepped out into the cool night air, she realized the truth. Her victory wasn't just for herself. It was for every unseen hand that keeps a community alive. Final reflection to the audience. What about you? Do you believe that real success isn't measured by what you own, but by the respect you show to those who are too often overlooked?